My new book, Pillars for Life, A Guide to Spiritual Ethics and Practice, is now out and available for you to read and purchase. You can check out our website, willowhealing.org, to find a link, or you can find it on Amazon. We look forward to getting your feedback, and if you love it, please leave a review and share with your friends. Now it's time for the show. Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hey everyone, it's Catherine Cristani, and today I am joined by Dean Sykes with a very special episode of Willow Healing Matters, because this month is actually Mental Health Awareness Month, and today Dean is joining me to talk about a hard topic that often people don't want to hear about, which is teen suicide. So let me tell you a little bit about Dean, and then we're going to dive into the topic. If you are sensitive to this information, please be mindful, and you can choose to listen or you can choose to skip this episode, but I hope you listen, especially if you have children, so you're aware of signs to look for. So Dean has been since January 1993 dedicating himself to spreading the message of hope and traveling extensively to high schools, teen challenge centers, and prisons across the United States and internationally. To date, he has participated in over 4,200 events, delivering the empowering You Matter message to millions of teenagers. In addition to his outreach initiatives, Dean hosts You Matter Television, a national broadcast, and engages with tens of millions on social media annually. As a published author, he has written 32 books that serve as invaluable resources for teenagers and their families. Dean resides in Chattanooga, Tennessee, with his wife Laurie and their children. So a big welcome to the show, Dean, and thank you for discussing this important topic with me today.
Well, Kat, glad to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
So I guess what inspired you to work with this population, I guess, would be my first question. Was there a story or something that triggered that event, or you just wanted to change?
Yeah, when I grew up in a Christian home in the southeastern region of the United States, went to Christian schools. All my friends were Christians. All I really saw was the Christian perspective of life. I became a Christian at 7 years old. At 15 years old, however, I was sexually abused. Those 60 seconds of abuse changed the trajectory of my life. And by the time I was 17, I was spiraling out of control. 18, 19, my drug of choice was lying. I lied all the time. You had to catch me telling the truth. I lied so much. And I lied because I didn't like me. And if I didn't like me, there's no way you could like me. So I wanted to change and create a person that I thought people would enjoy being around. When I was 21, my life changed forever when I said a simple prayer. I said, God, if you're real, prove it. I don't think you are. I've been in church my whole life. But if you're real, I'd like to know about it. 2 weeks later, come and go, and I'm sitting in my office dialing a phone, and behind me, off to my left, I heard someone say, call mom. I swung around in my chair, saw no one, but I knew to call my mom, and I did. And when she answered the telephone, instantly I knew something was terribly wrong. Her voice was slurred. She was disoriented. In that moment in time, when I hear what I believe to be the voice of God say, call mom, and I did so, my mother was attempting suicide. I could hear the life leaving her body. I ran out of my office, jumped in my car, drove up this interstate, prayed a simple prayer, got to my parents' home. From the outside in, their home looked fine, safe, secure. But from the inside out, my mom was dying. I speak literally with millions of people. And from the outside in, they appear to have it all together. But from the inside out, they're in their own private wars, trying to figure out how does life work. I got my mom to a hospital that day, and as we drove, she says, Dean, I can't be dying. And I just, from the bottom of my heart, I said, Mom, you're not going to die, but you're going to have to choose to live. The most important word in that sentence, Catherine, is not live, it's choose. That best-selling book of all time says, choose you this day who you will serve. Doctors began to work with her. 45 minutes later, this doctor from the ER emergency room walked over to my dad and said, there's no medical reason to tell you what I'm getting ready to tell you. It's a, quote, miracle of God. She's fine. She's alive. You can go see her. That day, my life changed. And I began to get serious about what do you want me to do with my life? And suddenly doors began to open for me to go into high schools. I never asked to do it. I didn't want to do it. But that really isn't important, is it? I did something that I've shared from Australia to Russia to South Africa to England, all over America, hundreds and hundreds of times. And it is this: if you and I do not pay the price in life, we will pay a price, meaning our life is all about the sum total of our choices. And our purpose in life is not ours to decide, it's ours to discover. And when I discovered mine, we haven't looked back.
What a powerful, powerful story. And, Yeah, I think exactly what you said, you need to choose to live. And it's so important because so often we forget that we have a choice and that we always have a choice. Always.
Yeah. Yep.
Even when it
So good.
feels like it's taken away from you completely, you always have that choice. Do I take the next step or do I stay where I am? Do I choose to change my life or do I stay where I am? Do I choose to live or do I choose to die? And I feel it's such an important thing that you said to your mum in that moment because, yeah, obviously, if your will's not there, nothing's going to change either.
Right. So true. So very true.
Yeah. And I love that you have titled all your work around You Matter because,
Yeah.
there's been such a push for, Black Lives Matters and everything like that. But I've always said that all lives matter
Yep.
because in the end, that's where it comes down to. And, sharing that message must be something that really resonates, especially with teenagers who have no idea what they're going to do with their life.
Yeah. Then so many times I have students come up to me after one of our assemblies in a school and they'll go, you don't know me. You don't know what I did last night. And I go, I don't want to know what you did last night. They'll go, you know nothing about me, but yet you have this bold messages that says that I matter. Why? And I always just smile and go, well, it's not based on your performance. It's not based on your athletic ability, your academic ability. If you're a musician, it's not theatrical, whatever. You matter for one reason. You're breathing. And that comes from a deep dive study of a 16-word verse in the book of Job, chapter 33, verse 4, that says this: the Spirit of God made you, and the breath of the Almighty gave you life. What does that mean? God's never made a mistake. He is a God of intentionality. And what he does so on purpose and with purpose and for purpose. So the fact that you and I are breathing and all of your listeners or viewers or watching are breathing, there's only one reason for me that gives birth to those two words I always share: you matter.
Mm. And that's such this is what the episode's going to be called, You Matter. Because in the end, I wholeheartedly agree with you, Dean, because, so often we work in fields, especially me as like a coach. It's like what makes you different from the next coach because you have your own story. You have your own
So
gifts. You have your own journey that God has put you on this earth to serve for. And this is why you're here right now. And if you're not here, who's going to miss out on the gift and the blessing of being you?
such a that's how you and I are on the same page in that I share with students, if you were not here today, we would all be missing someone so very special. And it's important, I guess, that students get that and they understand that, but it's more important that they embrace that truth because so many students are like, well, I don't see anybody doing what I want to do. And the revelation that I give them is very simple. Maybe you don't see anybody doing what you want to do because we're all waiting on you to go do it.
Yes,
And
100%.
when they capture that and they get that, they're like, oh, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah. And I guess if only because it's popping in my head now, only and I don't know, what are the statistics currently for teen suicide?
Yeah, every day in the United States, at least 5,600 people attempt suicide. Now, pre-COVID, it was 5,240. Post 5,600. Let me offer you a visual that might be a little more eye-opening. In an arena that seats 12,000 people, that arena, fully empty, would fill up every seat with someone who had attempted suicide in the previous 60 hours. So every 2.5 days, that arena would fill up 12,000 people who had tried to end their life in the previous 60 hours. There's a tremendous connection between teenage suicide and young people who do not feel seen and who do not feel heard. There's an even greater connection between suicide and social media. The average teenager will spend 9 hours a day on their device. And I was
Yeah.
like, there's no way. So I grabbed my phone the other day and I went to TikTok and I just started scrolling. 48 minutes later, I looked up and I thought, well, where did those 48 minutes go? It's addictive. And so, for us, we utilize social media for our outreach and our content. And in the last 24 months, we've had 151 million views of our videos. So we're very thankful for that. But here's what I tell students. Every school I go into, students come up to me and they go, hey, I watch your videos. I'm like, thank you. Please keep watching. I appreciate you letting me know. But here's what I tell them. We count our views, not our likes. Why? If you're still counting likes, you have no idea how much you're loved.
Mm.
Your value cannot be derived from somebody liking something you do on social media.
Yeah.
Just can't.
Exactly. And I think that's such an important distinction is we're being thrust into this culture where we think our worth is measured on the responses that we get from the posts that we post. And it's almost like you can default into that original identity that you started with, Dean, as a teenager of lying about who you are, because so often we only see the bright and shiny posts. We don't see the
Right.
hurt. We don't see the vulnerability. People just post what you want to see. And it's funny because when you start to look beneath the masks, well, that's one of my gifts. I can see straight underneath people and their smiles like this. I'm like,
Yep.
they're not happy,
Right.
and you can, and everyone's like, oh, that's such a nice photo. I'm like, oh no, they're so depressed. They're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, look at them. They're not lighting up. There's a difference between
Mm.
a smile that's a genuine lit up smile versus the one that
Yeah.
is forced and the one that is created. And I have a friend and he asks people, how's your mental health today? Because it stops people defaulting into that, how are you? And just saying,
Yep.
I'm good. And it actually gives
Yep.
them a moment of pause. And,
It
because
does.
that, like you said, even with the doom scrolling, that's what my coach calls it, doom scrolling, you get sucked in and you have to be really careful about what your brain's taking in as well. And teenagers don't think that way. They just follow whatever they're meant to follow and whatever pops up in their feed. Whereas I'm really conscious of it and I'm like, nope, unfollow, or like hide that
Hmm.
ad or whatever. So I don't have that in my field. Whereas when you're a teenager, you just kind of want to fit in and find a way to belong, because in the end, we're human and we want to feel like we belong.
Well, the connection is just so deeply desired, and what teenagers may or may not understand is those algorithms on social media. Once you start looking at
Mm,
a video for 3, 4, 5 seconds, you're just opening yourself up to an entire plethora of similar videos, similar
yeah.
content. And so I really believe this, Catherine, that the Bible says that all things were created by God and for God. So I believe He created the internet. I believe He created social media. The enemy comes in and twists everything, and so I believe it can be used for good. I mean, look what we're doing today.
Agreed.
We're talking about stuff, and we're maybe taking some of the stereotypical junk around this issue and seeing it diminish somewhat, because one of the greatest verses in the Bible says this: open communication permits progress. So I have a lot of parents who say to me, well, I don't know how to talk to my kids.
Mm,
Well, that's concerning, but okay. Um, how about just starting with questions? How was your day? Fine. Okay, well, you got to go deeper. Why was it fine? One of the things that my wife and I did early on with our kids as they were growing up, we would all sit around our farm table in our home and we would ask them, what was your high today individually?
mm,
What was your low today? And still today, even though our kids are grown and have families of their own, when we all get together and we'll still recently, just I remember we went around the room. What was your high today? What was your low today? And it actually just engages conversation.
mm,
And why is that important? One of the things I see with students is, they talk about the home life and how there's no communication, there's no connection. And I hear a lot from young people about, well, my dad does this. And there's a difference between a dad and a father. Dads give us what we want, but fathers give us what we need. And
mm.
so I see this real need out there for men who are fathers, who've got kids, to truly be a father. And when you see the students that I see and the numbers of students that we get to see, um, it grabs your heartstrings, because what they're really searching for is they want someone to tell them that I believe in you. You can do
Mm.
this. You've got the potential to do this. And they're not really hearing it, because most parents, if they spend time with their students, their kids, their teenagers, they're trying to be their best friend. They don't
Yeah.
want to make them mad. They want to keep the peace in the home. We have to get beyond that. You're not supposed to be your teenager's best friend right now. You're supposed to
No.
be their parent. Be their best friend in 10 years, but not right now.
Yeah, and even that's such an important point, because there's I've been talking about over the last week or so, saying your powerful no, especially to your children. There's been this fear about saying no to them, but they need boundaries, they need routine. And even the other week, I said my son was asking something. I said no, and he's like, "What?" And it was just such a no, like no. And I said, "No, you know what your chores are, your responsibilities. You haven't done any of those. So come back to me once you've done all that, and then we can have a discussion about this." And he just went, huh. And he quietly went off and did everything. And he
And did
came
everything.
back and he did everything. I didn't even argue. I was just like, it was just a no. And, from working with years with children, so my background's as a speech language pathologist, for working for years with children, so often it would be saying to the parents, like, well, have you actually asked them what's going on? And they're like,
Mhm.
what? I can't do that. I'm like, you don't have to be a detective. You just have to
Right.
have a conversation, and create a space where they feel safe enough to come and talk to you, and even you can start it, like you said, with the dinner table conversation. I have like a little happy journal that I do with my
Mhm.
son each night. And we talk about, it's like questions like, what are you grateful for? What do you love about yourself? But it's all about reflecting on who you are and coming back into that. So then you can have those conversations later. And if your child's already a teenager, teenager, it doesn't mean that you're completely shut out, but actually
Yeah.
ask them about the music, ask them about something they're interested in, and then segue that into figuring out what's going on. Because if you're talking to them about, you shouldn't be listening to that music, well, then you're not actually seeing them for who they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And you've lost them.
exactly.
They will absolutely tune you out. And for the parents who ask, how's life, and your kid always says everything's fine, you might want to do a deep dive, because odds are it's not. It's just a safe answer that students universally give, that everything's not fine. They're searching for purpose. They're searching for meaning. They're searching for deep level connection. They may not say it. They may not act like they want it, but deep down they do.
Yeah, personally, I got sick of my mother particularly, not listening to what I had to say. So she would ask me what I was doing, and I said, I'm going fishing, because I'd already told her, and she
Right?
just didn't listen. And so she's like, what do you mean you're going fishing? I said, well, I already told you the real answer, but I thought you'd actually listen then. So I was reverse parenting, right?
Yep. Yep.
you
I
know,
get it.
and sometimes you need to do that with children too. You just need to say something so shocking. I used to
Yeah.
have little clients come in going, oh, I hate this. I said, yeah, I do too, but we have to do it. And they're like, oh gosh, she
Yep.
gets it.
Yep.
And I was like, yeah, I'm
Yep.
not discounting your hate. It's horrible. I don't want to do it either, but we got to do it. Let's just
But
get
we
it
got to
done.
do it.
And sometimes they just, like you said, they just want to be heard. They just
Yeah.
want to be seen. They just want to be heard. And so often, taking at face value that fine, that's not work. And going through their room and reading their diaries, that is just going to break the trust. You're going to have nothing to come back from that, especially as a parent.
So true. One of the greatest reasons I believe that the Lord really blesses what we do is I have never, in over 4,200 events, walked into a place and talked to an audience. I talk with teenagers, and I tell them up front, I'm not reading a speech. I have a microphone in my left hand and a bottle of water in my right, and I walk and talk. And I tell them, I'm not here to talk you into something. If I could talk you into something today, somebody so much better than me could talk you out of it. I'm here to offer you what I believe to be truth. And the cool thing about truth, it's always truth.
Yeah.
And they respond. When they realize they're not being talked to, but invited into a conversation, man, their guards go down immediately. They engage. And by the time our assemblies or chapel services are over, we have seen a significant move of God's Spirit where people's lives are totally transformed. I haven't had a job since I was 26 years old. I love what I get. I get to do this, and I'm so thankful for it, because it's a journey that will continue on, and it's why I wrote this book. It's an important, we believe, aspect of our ministry, because we unpack not only that you do matter, we unpack why you matter in the book, and it's a short read. It's 100 pages, and it is. Thankfully, it's really working. It's number one in its category again, still on Amazon. So we're very grateful.
Yeah, and it's just the simplicity of that message too. I think
Yeah.
that it can't be underestimated. And and I feel that this is where how you act in the world, if you want to know how, personally, I'm going to ask you this question too, but personally, I feel if you want to create a change, it's about being open and listening, but just being kind too, because sometimes you come across people who are really grumpy and terrible, but sometimes just that small thing of kindness, like even complimenting them, like, hey, I love that you've done something really random with your hair, could be enough
Yep.
to snap them out and realize, oh, I am making an impact on someone's life, and it's something so simple. And even I've said to people, I was walking past this lady, I still remember, and she had the most beautiful skirt on. And I actually stopped and said, your skirt is beautiful. I absolutely love it. And she was like, oh, thank you. And I walked away and I came back because I had to go buy something. I came back and she was there gushing to her friend. She goes, oh, my day is so much better. This lovely lady just came and said how nice this skirt was. And I felt so special. And and I was like, wow, clearly she needed that in that moment, so
Yep.
trusting that message of whether it's from God or your intuition or your inner knowing or whatever resonates if you're listening, and just say what you need to say. Don't be afraid of that, because sometimes people need to hear it in itself too.
That is so good, and I could not concur more. It's people are looking for a place to belong,
Mm-hmm.
and when someone walks into their life like you and you say compliment a skirt, I mean that didn't cost you anything, a few seconds of your life, but it obviously made an impact on a person who needed maybe to be impacted that day. So I look for the seemingly smallest opportunities and leap toward them as given the opportunity to do so.
Yeah. Even simple things like holding the door open for
Mm-hmm.
somebody, or the
Yep.
lift, or,
Yep.
just saying, hey, you dropped this, or I've seen people, I don't know why, I have this thing with tags sticking out, and I'll tell people, like, hey, your tag's sticking out. And they're like, oh, thank you.
That's great. That is so great.
I don't
Well,
know why. Something is trauma in my childhood, probably, but I'm just like,
but
your tags out.
yeah, it works. I think what you're really just suggesting is kindness works.
Exactly.
And if we can
Exactly.
just kind of love God and love people, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, 100%. Do you have any other tips that you share with parents or with teenagers who are struggling with life, essentially?
Yeah, I basically, one of the number one things I always share is if you do not deal with your emotions will deal with you. They don't just magically disappear,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
don't be afraid to go onto a deep dive and understand. For me, I went to Christian counseling, and it's a conversation that lasted 11 years, and it was transformative for me. I mean, I still carry in my iPad, I still carry 11 years of notes, and I'll go back and review them. I often share that the opportunity of a lifetime must be acted upon in the lifetime of that opportunity. When you see an opportunity and it's for you, act on it. I share that don't let yesterday rob you of today and tomorrow, because yesterday ended last night. Tomorrow's not yet here. We've been given this gift called today. Understand that when you look in the mirror, in fact, if my hand is a mirror, I'll ask students, do you see what God sees when you see this mirror? Sadly, most don't, but you can, because it is an absolute, again, deep dive into truth that never changes. And then I culminate everything we do with a very simple message that says this: you were created on purpose, with purpose, and for purpose. And because you're breathing, you matter.
Oh, 100%. I got goosebumps. That is so beautiful. So beautiful. And it is so true because, like I shared earlier, I teach people, like, your story is what makes you unique. Even if
Mm,
you've been through the trenches, even if life has just turned yourself upside down, there's always a blessing in that. And when you can see the blessing in that, you know that you can move on and share that with other people, because the universe or God will always send you people who are 10 steps behind you. And I say
hmm
this with clients: how often do you go learn something or you'll hear something, and then within a few days, people need that information
That's
from
right.
you,
Yep.
or you
Yep.
need to share it as well. And if you weren't here and you weren't existing, you wouldn't have got that message, and you wouldn't have been able to pass it on and change that person's life.
It's,
And
it's
yeah,
so
yeah.
true. I would just say that this is one of the things I share with students who really dealt with suicidal thoughts, or even those who have attempted it. And it's a very basic truth. God did not need your help getting into this life, nor does He need your help getting out of it. When it's your time to go, you'll go. But don't go because life gets too hard. And for those maybe who are listening, maybe you've had someone in your life go, I don't say that flippantly. I
Mm,
say it with unimaginable compassion and empathy, because I've sat with parents who've lost kids. I've sat with teenagers who've attempted over and over. I've had story after story of young people who've come up to me afterwards to share their stories. And I always say, you know what? You were kind enough to listen to me. As long as I can stay here, I want to hear your story. And they just unpack it. And I'll close my part with this, Catherine, saying this: you don't have to be standing in front of a microphone or have TV cameras or media cameras on you to be effective and impactful in what you do in life. It's
no.
those moments where you just maybe sit down and have tea or coffee with someone and just go, how's life? And actually really care how their life is
And listen, and actually
and listen.
listen.
Yep.
Yeah. And I feel that's such an important message, Dean, too, that, sometimes, and even if you can't help that person in that moment, you probably know somebody who can.
hmm
Even, I've been so blessed with so many amazing guests on this show. And so often I can see how to connect those people with other people so
mm
that they can go and serve in some way. Because there's always that 6 degree of separation that people
hmm
talk about, and
Yep.
it might be, it's like, oh, I know who you can, and trusting that, I know who
Yep.
you can go to, or
Yes.
thank you so, but acknowledging it too. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. I don't actually have the skills to help you with that, but I appreciate
hmm
your vulnerability. Let me connect you with this person. I feel you would be really aligned.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so great. So great.
Yeah. And I guess that's the power again of connection and coming back that full circle. Like, we're meant to be connected, and
Yeah,
if you feel you're alone, I promise you you're not. There'll be somebody
absolutely.
else somewhere in the world of this billion people that is going through
Yep.
the same thing. Not exactly the same, but something very similar.
Yep.
And when you have the courage to share that, that's when you can have that deep connection too.
So good. Couldn't agree more. Totally agree.
Dean's like, she's doing the job for me. Perfect.
That's great. That's great.
And as we start to finish our time together, Dean, I guess in Australia, if anyone's listening to this and they're thinking about suicide, I need to say that there are people you can talk to. So we have Lifeline in Australia, and the number's 13 11 14. You can call it at any time if you're in crisis, if you need support. Through thinking about suicide, please call the number, talk to somebody. It's really important. If you don't have anyone in your life, there's always someone at the other end of the phone. And I don't know what the number is in America, Dean. You know the number?
It's basically just pound 988.
There you go, pound 988. So, for those who are listening who are really struggling, please call those numbers, because it's really important that you do get connected with somebody that can hear you and help you through that moment. So
So
yeah,
true.
like Dean said, you are here for a reason. You matter, and it's really important to remember that. And Dean, I asked the guests that come on the show, if you could heal or change something in the world, what would it be?
Oh, no question. It would be the eradication of hopelessness.
Yeah, beautiful.
Because hope gives faith something to hang on to, and we all need faith and we all need hope. And so mine would simply be, I'm on this crazy mission of just doing that, eradicating hopelessness and helping to end teenage suicide. And we believe mightily in the power of hope. And again, it's really why I wrote this book, because it is full of hope. People who read it seem to be a whole lot more hopeful. And if I may, if people are interested in taking a look at the book, they can look at it on Amazon, or they can go to our website, youmatterbook.us.
That's perfect, because my next question was, where could they find you and where can they find your book?
Yep.
So you've already covered the book. Where can they find you, Dean?
YouMatter, youmatter.us will get them to our ministry and outreach, and then youmatterbook.us gets them to the book.
Beautiful. And I'll make sure to put all those details in the show notes as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dean, for being on the show and for sharing your powerful message that you matter. And I really appreciate your time.
I've enjoyed getting to know you, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with those who follow what you do in life.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show notes. Remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.